I am sure by the time that you hear this, we will know the severity of the ugly Alperen Sengun injury late in the fourth quarter of last night's win over the Kings, but it didn't look good at all. They needed a wheelchair to get him out of there, even in the case that this is a somewhat minor and more so an ankle problem than a knee. And again, I'm kind of expecting the worst here because where I am, it's 3 p.m. and we haven't heard anything. I can't imagine that's a good sign. Regardless, there is a very good chance that we don't see Alperen Sengun on the basketball court again this year. This is a player that's 3 games away from qualifying for awards with 62 games played and would have been a frontrunner for most improved player alongside Tyrese Maxey and Kobe White. But regardless of the awards this guy will or won't contend for, this has been a massive step forward for a guy that is going to have a special role in the league for a long time, regardless of the injury diagnosis. So, the Houston Rockets have had a productive season as far as rerouting the ship into some minor form of relevancy, and even though they are essentially a sure shot for the lottery after last night, despite a big win in Sacramento, which, by the way, for a team holding a whopping 7-24 road record, entering that game, a truly inspiring victory against a team that needs every win they can get. Of course, Sacramento's been a mess for a little while now. You just never know what you're going to get night in, night out, but I digress. Surely, it would have been interesting to see Houston sneak into a play-in game this year after being such a train wreck for the last 3 seasons, but if it's any consolation, they definitely would have got in over the Hawks in the East. If it makes anybody feel better, the Western Conference is just a different beast this year, and I wouldn't feel too bad to miss out on the postseason. Given the place this team is coming from, start of the season with a new coach, new player additions that haven't exactly been the healthiest throughout the year. You got injuries to a lot of guys, especially key players like Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks missing time. The team is starting to build a solid identity. Fred VanVleet, he's had an excellent season and developed a seamless chemistry with Sengun. Jalen Green, definitely still a question mark for this team, but Jabari Smith seems to have established himself as pretty much the perfect prototype 4 to fit in next to the team's franchise centerpiece, and truly the NBA's next great big man who we saw transform in real time under Ime Udoka into this multi-dimensional offensive hub player that is drawing baby Joker comparisons left, right, up, down, sideways, every which way. I can understand the thinking that this comparison is lazy, and the Euro aspect surely plays into that, but the way that they operate in the low and mid post are just incomparable to anybody else. The control of pace in combination with herky-jerk movements, the use of either hand, shooting the 1-foot fades, always demoralizing a defense with a dual threat of being able to pass or shoot out of any situation, the general nuance and comfort in a thicket of defenders for Alperen Sengun is well beyond his years, and a big reason why he's so scary for the rest of the league. This guy looks like he's been playing NBA ball for 10 years. He's obviously smaller than Joker, but he can actually jump over guys. He has a speed and explosion that the Joker just doesn't, and he has just way more polish to his movement than a guy like Sabonis, who generally operates more off of brute force. Sengun is already an elite playmaker and a ball handler for his position with 1.5 million post moves. If you gave DeAndre Ayton 6 shots of rabies and told him to supercharge the rim on every play, he probably still wouldn't be as effective as a physical presence in the paint as Sengun, who just has that physical nature in his play style. I know we spend a lot of time talking about Anthony Edwards, and rightfully so. 22 years old, with tendencies that remind us of some of the greatest players, even the greatest of all time, and putting together a transcendent collection of all-time moments already. Alperen Sengun is 21 and taking a huge leap. In year 3, the sky is truly the limit. I'm not saying he's better than Ant-Man or anything like that, but you know how much Anthony Edwards' name gets out there and what we expect from a guy like that as far as the damage that he will do in this league. The sky is the limit. The ceiling is, you watch the guy play and it jumps off the screen. Alperen Sengun, to me, maybe it's not the exact same, but it's similar, and it should be regarded in a way that it just really isn't being. Somehow his name isn't really in the national media, and despite such a strong season that would have likely garnered an all-star appearance had he been in the Eastern Conference, this guy is still totally under the radar. And I hate to pile on to Steven Silas, but the guy just didn't have a clue what he had. I understand the ideology behind easing certain players into the NBA game, as it can be quite an adjustment, but for a team that already sucked total balls, there was no excuse for Sengun not to have emerged as the clear guy. And the Rockets fans knew this was the guy that you needed to prioritize. I was saying it too. Sengun wasn't necessarily the player that he is today, but regardless of what happens with this injury, and once again, I'm sure we will know exactly what that is, this man is going to dominate the NBA. He is going to run this league at the center spot for the next decade and some change. In a season of generally very strong health across the league, it does feel like these past few weeks have seen guys breaking down, and we're just seeing the injuries come at us at a greater frequency. And hopefully that isn't a trend that continues at this rate into the postseason, but guys' bodies just end up breaking down. It's been a long season, and regardless, I have no doubt Alperen Sengun is here to stay and is widely undervalued and under the radar still. People know who he is, but they don't remotely know what he can be.